4 women and 1 in 8 men can experience this. 1 in 5 people in the UK live with a disability in domestic abuse. A victim will experience on average 36 counts of domestic abuse before telling anybody. And on average, it takes around 7 attempts for the abused partner to leave a good relationship, leave the relationship for good. And domestic violence can affect anybody, any culture, any profession, from any background. So a little bit of background about me and how I kind of got to with you all today on this lovely sunny afternoon. So I began my journey in domestic abuse in 2008 when I started working in the field of domestic abuse. And I started as a senior project coordinator, and I supported in the community individuals to participate in practical skills and also give advice and guidance. And that means attending appointments with them, social workers, solicitors, all them kind of appointments, health appointments, filling in application forms, supporting them to move, all the practical stuff that we could do once the relationship had ended. However, over time, since 2008, I observed that even when the individuals had left the relationship, they were still struggling to reduce the anxiety, as that remains, and they found it really, really difficult to engage in day-to-day activities. With a massive lack of awareness of what role they were in now. So they'd left this kind of coercive environment and everything was controlled. And they really, really struggled to find out who they were. And they just couldn't get routine and structure. It was really, really difficult for them to function once the relationship had ended. So I observed when working with them, attending these GP's appointments and whatnot, that individuals who attended health appointments were kind of given the same advice. It's not mental health, leave the environment and the mental health symptoms will reduce, which was quite logic when we thought about it, because it was being created by this really controlling environment. Interventions were different from male to female. I found that on working with females, they were quite logical when I first started working with them, and we could support them to get things in order. And then once our work had kind of finished, then they were emotional and kind of had to have that rest period. As when we were working with males, it was very much having to work with the emotional side first, the embarrassment and the confusion of what was actually happening to them. And the recovery time was longer for individuals that had experienced ACEs as opposed to not experienced ACEs, and that's adverse childhood experiences. And there was courses out there as well, so the Freedom Programme. However, the feedback that we were getting is that I know now they've explained who I'm living with, but how do I overcome living with that abusive partner? I qualified as a counsellor in 2017, and we could work through the emotions and work through with, the feelings around, but the change of satisfaction and performance in certain activities didn't seem to be happening. It wasn't seem to be flowing at the time that we were counselling. Referral systems that were out there for us when I was a senior practitioner was primary care, there was secondary care, social services, and amazing third-party sectors. Lots of group work, so we've got the Freedom Programme, Unhealthy Relationship Programme, ACEs Programme, and refers to counselling. But from what we could see, there was a gap in the market. Something was missing from how these individuals got from ending the relationship to fully functioning on a day-to-day basis. So we know about intimate partner violence. It's controlling and coercive behaviour, physical and sexual abuse, violence and threatening behaviour, economic abuse, and psychological, a lot of emotional abuse. And then I did some research, and Professor Jane Mockton Smith, her research identified that she'd done a lot of coercive control. And what she identified is that coercive control is the umbrella of domestic abuse. So there's monitoring and tracking, sexual abuse, violence, routines and rituals, all within the umbrella of coercive control. And as we know, that 20% of all domestic abuse cases had no physical violence. There was no bruises, there was nothing visual to see. So it can be quite a hidden way of living. And the most significant high risk marker of potential homicide is coercive control. And the most common form of domestic abuse actually reported now is coercive control. Because when I started back in 2008, it was really, really hard to prove coercive control, because there was nothing to see, there was nothing to feedback, there was no kind of evidence. However, over the last couple of years that I've been working, it's now a criminal offence, and as I say, one of the most common forms of domestic abuse reported. So within entering a relationship, I observed that it's about the Biderman. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Biderman, but it's about power and control, isolating the partner, family, friends, occupational deprivation, threats, stalking, harassment, and then having this occasional indulgence of love, sorriness, neediness, past excuses, which are all really, really exhausting. Then once they're in the relationship, it's a cycle of violence. So it's this really intense build-up of the situation, which leads to a really explosive, acute type of behaviour. And then it goes through to the honeymoon period. And this, as I say in the beginning of statistics, can happen on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. There's no structure or routine to how this happens, but it's a cycle constantly within the relationship. And I observed that individuals really, really struggled to manage their emotions and finding a reason why to leave and backfilling from the abuse when they'd left the relationship. They really, really struggled to function once the abuse had gone. What was there instead? What were they doing instead? And managing emotions and fear. So fear, love, grief, vulnerability, a lot of emotions that fluctuated and was quite fluid throughout within the relationship and on leaving the relationship. So this, lots and lots of emotions there that the individuals were having to manage. Again, Professor Mockton Smith identified immediate fear that people were experiencing when leaving the relationship, and that was fight or flight, crying, shaking, anger. So that immediate, at the time of the event, kind of fear that was happening when they needed to flee the relationship. And chronic fear, avoiding consequences of upsetting the perpetrator, living a perpetual state of consequent management, being responsible for other people's behaviours, being responsible for keeping the perpetrator happy and stable, walking on eggshells. Then they had love. There was this big emotion and fear over love. He's the father of my children. I thought we would be married forever. I imagined the idea of happy, going through a rough patch, was feeling guilty. He's not usually like this. He's got a really good side to him. And then grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, all of these emotions that they were feeling as they were leaving the relationship. And vulnerability. So work that I've read by Brené Brown, they feeling vulnerability is kind of a really, really uncomfortable emotion to experience. And that's feeling exposed. It was leaving these people feeling quite shame, blame, worthless, really, really uncomfortable feeling. Finding reasons why. So in 2017, I was made redundant from my past role as a senior project coordinator, and I began my journey as an occupational therapy student. And within the university degree, I discovered at quite an early start of the degree that individuals were able to break down their situation, their life, into the three areas of self-care, being productive, and leisure. And occupational identity, after experiencing occupational deprivation, was really, really important in their recovery. Actually rebuilding their own world around what was important to them and the reason why they were building it was really quite vital. So we supported individuals to rebuild their world and become more satisfied in participating in a meaningful way. As a student, I completed a literature study, and all of what I was reading mirrored my thoughts. But the skills of occupational therapists were not currently exploited within this world. So I did lots of research, and there was lots of OTs that I spoke to that was working with a secondary case. So they were coming through to mental health, or they were working with them in their job roles, and they were experiencing domestic abuse kind of as they were talking and collecting the history. And what I wanted to do after observing everything that I observed is I really wanted to open a domestic abuse project where people could come and work with an occupational therapist who was wanted to leave the relationship and again build occupational identity. So using this literature, me and BCU that I work for wrote a business plan, and we were really lucky to get some funding to open an occupational domestic abuse project within our local community. And this was back in 2022 now, which time has flown. So we got the funding from the Elizabeth Casson Trust, and we joined up with the Bevan Commission to support us to present our findings across Wales, which was really good. And there's a link there for the actual full presentation that you can read all about the project, all about our data that we collected, and you know it's presented there. So we worked with a domestic abuse safety unit in the community, and we were based in there, and we worked with their team with people coming through the door. So we worked very much with their support staff when they come through. And the aims of the project. We wanted the aim to be provide an early intervention and mental health rehabilitation upstream. So it was catching them early. So we were thinking they were leaving on average 7 times. I wondered if as occupational therapists, we could shorten that length of time. And when they were then leaving in the event stage of the cycle, if we could then work with them at that point and have a look if we could interject occupational identity. The use of person-centered approach to identify individual meaningful occupational goals, enable development of occupational identity through meaningful activities and roles within the home, the family, and the community. and embedding self-management strategies, supporting well-being into daily routines, and harness a network of health, social care, and third sector providers to deliver appropriate, prudent support to individuals that we've seen. So the model that we used in the project was the model of human occupation. This is a diagram of Lucy Clark, and she was the lady that I did it with. She created this model in her, this version of it in her master's. And it was very much about volition and habituation and performance capacity, but then looking at their new environments and what skills did they have, their occupational skills and restraints. What performance did they want to perform? So it was really, really breaking it down into self-managing stages that was not overwhelming for the individual. And then occupational participation, and really, really building on that occupational identity that potentially could have been missing for years and years and years while they were engaging in kind of the dark side of occupations, when it wasn't their occupations, they were controlled, or they just genuinely weren't allowed to participate in any occupations that they enjoyed. The assessments that we used. So we used the OKERS as our basic assessment, and that was to gather all the information that we needed around kind of what was past, what your social like, where are you now, and what goals that you wanted to make for the future. And it was very much using the interest checklist, because a lot of these people didn't have access to engaging in leisure activities for a length of time. Then we used the PHQ9 and the GAD-7, and this just allowed us to monitor the mood as we were working through the stages of recovery. And our outcome measure, which was used as an assessment and then an outcome measure, we used the COPM, and this was brilliant to allow us to identify the performance and the satisfaction of the performance. So we went through understanding the readiness for change with them, the thinking, the participation, the action, the maintenance. So we went through a lot of that with them at the start of it, just so they were aware of the readiness for change. And then we used evidence-based technique skills. So activity scheduling, problem solving, motivational interviewing, all the ones that occupational therapists are really, really good at. It's kind of our bread and butter. So it's, how to develop roles, referring to social prescribing. Let's have a look at your sleep. It was really, really breaking it down for them. The demographics that we discovered is, as we said at the beginning, domestic abuse can happen to absolutely anybody. And these is the of what we found that we were working with through the 9-month project that we did. And analysing the data that we collected, we found that there was 8 goal themes when we were working with the service users that they called them. So we worked with 20 people, and out of them 20 people, they had 76 goals set. And we worked on average about 3 to 5 goals that they chose each. And the themes that emerged from there was improving ability with coping with the symptoms, the anxiety, the management, the pain, and the fatigue. It was really, really important to them to learn how to manage that. Hold and carry out important roles. So learning to be a parent again, wanting to be a student, wanting to return to work or go to work. Establishing routine. So their sleep pattern, their morning, their self-care. Looking after themselves, putting themselves first for once, and not using unhealthy strategies. So alcohol, we would have a look at that and introduce exercise to them. And then we would have a look at finding enjoyment. One of the themes that come out was finding enjoyment. Have a look after have and look after my home. So it was finding another home, or if they did have a home, some of it was learning to pay bills. They'd never paid bills before. So it was really breaking that down. Seeing friends, going out face to face, having the telephone conversations or virtual chats over social media, and having confidence to go out, even if it was just shopping or attending appointments. So they were the themes that we emerged from the data. And the quantitative outcomes, as you can see, we use the COPM and the green at the top. With the COPM, I'm sure you're all aware that it has to be 2 marks above for a score to be significant. And the performance that they were doing, so they would pick a goal at the beginning, and then on average about 12 weeks after, and you can see the significance in the scores there. And the quantitative outcomes being satisfied, again using the COPM, you can see that not only were they participating in meaningful occupations and reducing the anxieties and the low moods, they were really becoming to be satisfied with their performance and doing the things that they'd always wanted to do, but not feeling anxious about it, and really getting that satisfaction in small things of life as well. And we captured some of their quotes, and I thought it was really good to share with you today of how strong occupational therapy is within the world of domestic abuse. So hold and carry out an important role. And we had quotes like, work have seen a massive change in my productivity, quality, and concentration on a day-to-day basis. I am shocked and proud that I have lasted this long in work without the urge to avoid going. I've just got 100% in both exams, and her turning up for her exams was really, really exciting for her. Thank you for your support in getting in touch with the mental health service for her son. Establishing a routine. The dog and myself have a pleasant evening routine. From the case records, Carol stated that due to the new skills, goals, routine, and anxiety management, she was able to remove herself from the negative thoughts and feelings. Looking after myself. I have washed my hair before you arrived. I have started eating healthier food choices that I prepare. So she really had that choice back for her to make decisions on what she wanted to eat. I am engaging in outdoor fitness activities to help me lose weight. I've had a bath for the first time in a long time. Have a look after the home. I can recognise things I love about my home. I went upstairs and cleaned my windows for the first time in years. I'm beginning to catch up with things I have been putting off, such as taking the dog for his boosters. Seeing friends. I completed a 40-minute wee workout with a friend, and we had some real good fun. I have made contact with my best friend of 20 years, as I now am free to do so. I have struggled meeting my friends during the day to go shopping. I have started meeting them and go shopping. Building confidence to get out and about. Guess what I did last week? I took the dog for a 5-minute walk. I spent 20 minutes in a neighbour's garden talking to her. I went out for a coffee on my own in the village at the weekend. It was lovely. Finding enjoyment. Spending time with my horse is more joy than a hindrance. I have started to watch music videos on TV and enjoy them. I went to my sister's and actually relaxed while sitting in her garden. Improving ability to cope with symptoms. I don't want to die anymore. I want to live and know what it's like to feel free. I had a panic attack before college, but I'm here and I'm okay. My fibromyalgia is under control due to the reduction of stress. I feel less of an emotional connection to my ex. Living and not existing. I am loving my new life. I am really grateful for all the support. I am beginning to feel more like my old self. Where previous was unable to take part in meaningful activities, I am now engaging. So the key achievements of running this project as an occupational therapist, we made contact with 500 partners and colleagues education, engaging and influenced. Pathway process and paperwork was developed from occupational therapy within DASU. 30 people were seen by occupational therapists across this 10-month period. 8 onward referrals made to manage significant risk. 20 people engaged with occupational therapy intervention. 15 people made significant improvements with their ability to perform their chosen occupations. And 18 people made significant improvements with their satisfaction and their ability to perform chosen occupations. Additionally, we had running this project, we had cost savings to the economy, with the domestic abuse of serious consequences to employment, housing and health service of a legal system, costing the economy £34,000 per person per victim per year. In addition, in long-term consequences, in terms of impacts of ACEs and the effects on children, it affects underlying social determinants of health. 20 people completed the intervention, all reported improvement in daily function. 15 people demonstrated a measurable improvement in the ability to perform their chosen goals. And within this 10-month project that we ran as occupational therapists, the total saving cost was over £500,000 to the economy just within those 10 months. That was a whistle-stop tour of the project, but thank you for listening. Have we got any questions?